sky had turned the color of slate by the time the group reached the mouth of the cave. Tall pines swayed against the biting wind, and the distant rumble of thunder promised a storm. Lucas glanced at the others, their breath fogging in the chilled air. "You sure about this?" he asked, his flashlight trembling slightly in his grip. Nina, always the bold one, rolled her eyes. "We've been planning this for weeks. It's just a cave. What are you afraid of?" Beside her, Alex adjusted the straps of his backpack, already regretting the decision to come. "I'm with Lucas. Caves can collapse, or bats. What about bats?" "It's fine," said Claire, the quiet one of the group. Her voice was steady, but her fingers clutched a map tight enough to crumple its edges. "The guide said it's a straight path. We're not going deep. In and out, easy." They stepped inside, the chatter of the forest muffled immediately by the oppressive silence of the cavern. The air grew damp and heavy, carrying the earthy smell of moss and stone. Flashlights clicked on, beams cutting through the dark like hesitant knives. The cave's entrance yawned wide, its stone walls damp and slick. As they moved deeper, the walls seemed to press closer, the ceiling lowering until they had to duck. Their footsteps echoed, distorted by the space until it sounded as though dozens of unseen feet shuffled alongside them. "Creepy, isn't it?" Nina's voice was unnaturally loud in the enclosed space. "Keep it down," Lucas muttered, his flashlight darting across the walls. "Sound carries weird in here." As if on cue, a faint whisper drifted through the cavern. It was low and unintelligible, but unmistakably human. Everyone froze. "Did you hear that?" Alex whispered, his voice barely audible. "It's probably the wind," Nina said, though her bravado faltered. She scanned the darkness behind them, but the entrance was already out of sight, swallowed by the twisting tunnel. They continued deeper, the air growing colder with each step. The walls narrowed further, forcing them into single file. The whispers came again, louder this time. Words flickered at the edges of comprehension, though none of them could say what had been spoken. "Guys," Lucas said, his voice trembling, "I think we should turn back." "It's nothing," Nina insisted, though she was gripping her flashlight with white-knuckled intensity. "Just echoes. But none of us said anything," Claire said quietly. They stopped. The silence pressed in thicker than the dark. Then, from deeper within the cave, they heard it. "Turn back." The voice was Claire's. She gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "That wasn't me," she whispered. "I didn't say that." "Of course you didn't," Lucas said, his voice strained. "It's some kind of acoustic trick. Caves do that, right?" "Then why did it sound exactly like her?" Alex asked, his voice sharp. He turned his flashlight back toward the way they had come. The beam stretched into the black, revealing nothing but slick rock and shadow. "Let's go." "We can't," Claire said, her voice shaking. She held up the map, her hand trembling. "The path's too twisted. If we're not careful, we'll get lost." "Better than staying here," Lucas said. Whatever that was, isn't normal." Nina hesitated, torn between her adventurous streak and the growing fear in her chest. "Let's keep moving. Just a little further. There's supposed to be an opening up ahead. We'll get there, then head back." They pressed on, the whispers growing more frequent. The voices mirrored their own, speaking words they hadn't said. Sometimes they seemed to come from behind, sometimes ahead, and sometimes from the walls themselves. Each time, the echoes grew clearer until they were indistinguishable from the group's own voices. "I don't like this," Alex said, his flashlight trembling. "I don't like this," his own voice repeated from the dark, warped and mocking. Lucas stopped, his flashlight darting across the walls. "Did you see that?" "See what?" Nina asked, her voice tight. "Something moved. I swear I saw something." "Stop it," Claire said, her voice breaking. "Just stop." From the darkness came her voice, low and cold. "Stop." Then Lucas's something moved. Then Alex's "I don't like this." The words layered over one another, rising in a cacophony that filled the cave. The group huddled together, their flashlights spinning wildly. The voices grew louder, more distorted, until they felt like they were coming from inside their own heads. "Run," Claire whispered, and they did. The narrow passage forced them to scramble single file. The beams of their flashlights bounced wildly, casting grotesque shadows on the walls. The voices chased them, echoing their own frantic screams and sobs. Nina was the first to fall. Her foot slipped on the slick stone, and she tumbled to the ground. Lucas skidded to a stop, reaching for her, but she screamed. "Don't touch me!" she shrieked, her voice high and panicked. It's not you. You're not real. Before Lucas could respond, her flashlight spun away, its beam revealing a figure in the dark. It was Nina, another Nina, standing perfectly still, her face blank and eyes wide. The real Nina scrambled back, her breaths coming in ragged gasps. "What is that?" Alex screamed, his voice echoing a heartbeat later. "What is that?" The other Nina moved, her head tilting unnaturally to the side. Her mouth opened, and the voices poured out, all of them, layered and overlapping, each word spoken by the group now twisted and alien. "Run," it said in all their voices. They did. They ran blindly, tripping and stumbling, the walls seeming to close in around them. The air grew thinner, colder, until it felt like they were breathing ice. The voices never stopped. The whispers became screams, taunting and pleading, always one step behind. When they finally burst into an open chamber, they collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath. The chamber was vast, the ceiling lost in shadow. Stalagmites jutted from the floor like jagged teeth, and a shallow pool of water reflected their trembling flashlights. Where are we?" Alex panted. "I don't know," Claire said, clutching her knees. "This isn't on the map." "How is this not on the map?" Lucas snapped. "You said it was a straight path." "I don't know," Claire sobbed. "I don't know." From the pool, a ripple spread. The group froze, their flashlights converging on the water. Slowly and possibly the surface rose. A figure emerged, its form shimmering and indistinct, like a reflection stepping free of the mirror. It was all of them, their faces, their bodies stitched together in a shifting, writhing mass. The creature's many mouths opened and their voices poured out in a deafening roar. "Turn back," it said. The flashlights flickered and died, plunging the chamber into absolute darkness. The last thing any of them heard was their own voices, screaming in perfect unison.